Welcome back to the Celtics Nation Rise podcast presented by Celtics Talk Weekly. Yeah, I said it. New things. We got co-host Andrew Quinn. We got co-host David over here and co-host Ricky. Want co-host? Might as well for playoffs.
Hey.
We're how are you guys feeling working with Celtics Talk Weekly now? How are you guys feeling about the Boston Celtics? Andrew, I want to start off with you.
Uh, feeling. I feel confident in the Celtics. I think that we have a roster that and guys that want to win. Do I say I feel as confident as last year? Not necessarily. I think that we're going to talk about, but like the Thunder, I mean, they definitely pose a threat, and they matched up well. And I think that we talked about last week about the habits, and we have to start right now building stronger habits that are going to lead into playoffs. I think we got to pick it up a little.
I agree. David, what are your thoughts of the Celtics this last week?
Yes, so I caught up on all the games. I watched the Miami game a couple days ago, and it wasn't obviously by any means a perfect win. Definitely a bit of an ugly win, but we, made the plays that we needed to make to win in that one. I watched the Brooklyn game this morning. You know, it was again, not a perfect win. We keep saying this on this program that a win is a win with the Celtics this season. I think it's been a little bit since we've seen a complete victory from them, but they're racking up the wins. It's hard to really pinpoint anything to complain about too much from a team that has gotten 50 wins before they've gotten 20 losses. And, there's been a myriad of things going on behind the scenes, or not really behind the scenes, but obviously the health has been a lot more of a uh, pressure point for the Celtics this year. We haven't had as much availability as we had throughout all last season. So, different challenges in this repeat season, but just we're at that weird point of the season where it's like, all right, let's just win these games against the teams we should be beating. But I mean, can the playoffs just please start sooner? I mean, we're just in this weird point where it's 13 more games. Like, let's just get these over with.
I love it. Ricky, so you've actually texted me that you were going into the arena last night. So how many games have you been on this home stretch? First of all, I want to ask that.
Well, I mean, I think the last conversation we had, I told you this was the first year I got season
Yeah,
tickets.
yeah, yeah.
I haven't missed a game, so
That's
that's yeah.
incredible. That's incredible. So what have you seen? All right, we could even say from last time we've met because it's been a while. What have you seen from the Boston Celtics just in person up close at TD Garden?
Oof. I mean, that's a loaded question, and I can answer it a bunch of different ways, but um, I think at least recently, in the last like few weeks, I feel like the season has become just a slog. In the sense that, as David put it, 2 minutes ago, let's just get this part of the season over with. We're 6 games up, or six and a half up on the Knicks. We're 7 behind Cleveland. We're kind of locked in the 2 seed. This is the time they're just going to start doing some experimentation. Look at the guys who played yesterday, and
Yeah.
Shireman went off.
Yeah.
This is we're going to see a lot more quote unquote, not health related issues, but guys sitting, I think, over this last, 13 games. We'll get the skeleton crew. But, over the last like month since or two since we last chatted, I think they're just, we talked about it. Health is number one, and it's the only thing that matters to this team. If they can stay healthy, I still find it difficult for a team to beat them 4-7. But as was said, there are some good teams in this league. There's going to be some challenges: Cleveland, Oklahoma City. But we can talk about that later. So, but it's about ramping up time now. It's time to start getting ready for the playoffs. Even though I know these last 13, 14 games are really going to be a real tough slog. So.
No, I think you said perfectly. And I want to go back on kind of what Andrew said too, that OKC loss. I feel like that was just, Ricky, you could give us a perspective from in the building too, but like, I thought that was pretty much a good game. I thought the Boston Celtics didn't play bad. Obviously, they locked up Jaylen Brown well and they played great defense against Jaylen Brown, but I thought ultimately no Kristaps Porzingis. The Boston Celtics had a good game against OKC. Obviously, you saw them falling short in the fourth quarter as it was kind of a back and forth game. But other than that, David and Ricky, you guys said it. They're kind of gonna coast. They're I think Seamus said it or someone said it on Celtics Talk Weekly, maybe even Franco, I don't remember. But it's kind of like in NBA 2K, they're just hitting simulate through the rest of the season. That's kind of what they're doing. It's time to focus on health. That's number one concern. And from there on, we're trying to go into playoffs and be healthy. Because like you guys said, there is good teams in the playoffs, and that's where you need to make a statement. And you need your full Boston Celtics team in order to go back to back. You need Porzingis this year to go against Cleveland. You need Porzingis in order to go against OKC if we end up seeing them in the finals. It's just a lot more challenging this year. Um, anyone want to kind of brush up on that before I get into my next question? Anyone?
I will say on the flip side of my first answer, as much as I want the playoffs to start already, you just made me think, Griffin, with your most recent point there, that it is also important these last 13 games, like Andrew also said, that we build good habits because been a lot of people in and out of the lineup. I don't know the exact number of games that our top six have all played together, but it's definitely significantly less than at this point last season. So, we only really have one other game that I'm looking forward to on the schedule. I think it's this Grizzlies game. I think that's the only other game that I think could have a playoff atmosphere attached to it. Um, but we'll see. I mean, that's still, you know, almost 2 weeks out. We'll see if the Grizzlies are resting people at that point. We'll see if we're resting more people at that point. But yeah, I just want to see us run through this finish line here and have some momentum heading into the playoffs rather than just playing like we don't care about the games and that we're just, gonna turn it up in the playoffs. No, I just want us to play all the way through. So I guess there's both sides to it. And the fan of me wants playoffs to start right away, but absolutely we need these final 13 games to brush up on some stuff.
You do. I mean, you gotta, again, Andrew said it, gotta create good habits. I mean, going into playoffs, you need to be relaxed with your team and you need to understand your team and you need to know those moments where you just gotta push forward. And I think we said it last night too. I think the Boston Celtics, they're looking at it, all right, let's get through the rest of this regular season healthy. And once playoffs starts, it's 0-0. Like, let's go in there 0-0. It's a new season. Let's give it all our energy we have and let's go back to back. Um, but really quick, like we mentioned already, the Boston Celtics lost to the Thunder 112 to 118. Um, tough game, but whatever, da da da. Then they beat the Miami Heat 103 to 91. We'll get into that in a second. And then they almost lost to the Nets. 115 to 113 became a close one at the end. And then you saw last night another kind of close game, 104 to 96. What kind of that kind of already we already brushed up on it, kind of it's showing that they're slacking off. But we could also say back in January, the Boston Celtics would have lost those three games, like being that close. Could do you guys agree with that? I feel like when we were in our slump back in January, the Boston Celtics, those were games where it was so close. The Boston Celtics wouldn't have been able to come back and ultimately get those wins back when we were in our slump. And I correct me if I'm wrong, but Ricky, I feel like the last time we met was in that slump. And we talk about, like, we've been talking about it a lot. Derek White was not where he wanted to be during that slump. Now that he's back up and doing good, the Boston Celtics are getting wins and they're back to where they are. What have you seen? Because you've been at the Garden. What have you seen from when they were in their slump to kind of picked it up and now the pace is good? What have you seen better from the Boston Celtics that they weren't doing in January? Obviously winning games, but what kind of has changed in the Garden for you?
Well, jokingly, I was about to say they've been playing away from the Garden, like in February. They had a lot of away games, which they
Yeah.
seem to be, playing fantastic ball away. You know, uh, I, I can't pinpoint one particular reason, as to, why they had that slump, specifically at home. I feel like, the Garden is always so much energy. I feel like I've, gone 12 rounds with Mike Tyson every time I come back. But, it's you know, the last, I want to say in February when they were struggling, or January and February when they were struggling there, it was hard to really pinpoint one thing. there were so many times. I do have to say one thing. There's plenty of times at the Garden, for as much energy as it does have, if they're not playing well, it can also get pretty lifeless in there too. We try to bring them back up and help them, help push them over the line. But like for instance, there was a game I think against Utah not that long ago. I think it was last Monday. It was another somewhat close game. We were up by 20 something points, and then going into the fourth quarter, Utah went on like a 36-10 something like that run, cut the game, or maybe even tied the game in the fourth. Because you're a pin drop in the Garden. So I'm calling out all Celtics fans that we need to improve going forward into the playoffs. That's when the real season starts. But getting back to your original question, I'm so in the moment when I'm at these games, so it's hard for me to take a bigger picture look as overall what has improved. I think Derek White has really stepped up his game though in the past 6 weeks or so. Coming out of that because he was in that slump as you had mentioned. Um, we need a healthy Holiday. Like nobody's really talked about him. He hasn't had the greatest season, but he's going to play a crucial role for us from going forward. Um, and obviously, as the guys have all said, Porzingis, he's the general cheat code for what we have going. And if he's healthy, then they're really tough to beat. But again, I can't pinpoint one particular thing, one particular reason. And maybe you guys will, have a little bit more insight, maybe, or give me some ideas as to if there was one particular reason that they made the improvements.
Yeah, Andrew, you want to start that off? Do you have any idea on
Yeah,
what
I
it?
mean, we talked about you did mention Porzingis, and I think that size is so important, and just being able to use Porzingis and give Horford rest or give these guys some rest and rotate through them gives them a little more opportunity to get baskets, just rest guys and be able to finish the games out. Because I think a lot of times you can start off as strong as you want, but when it comes down to it, it's a long game, and when you have guys that are healthy that can help you finish out these games, that's where it really matters. And so having those guys healthy is important to find ways to really, really capitalize on it and finish it out.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Before we go on to David, what's your thoughts of we are having those worries about Porzingis last I think it was last week, last podcast with his tweet that he sent out. Now he's back. Where do you think it was an injury? Do you think what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel like we didn't get many details on it. I'm not positive,
Mhm.
but it seems like it was probably just a virus that they didn't know like exactly what it was, but he wasn't feeling well, and he had to take a couple of days away from the team. But he seems like he's feeling good, and they obviously didn't give him all the minutes. Trying to bring him back to full health, but it seems like he's okay. So I'm glad he's doing well.
Yeah, I'm pumped about that. David, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think one of the big reasons we went into a slump wasn't necessarily about our offensive play style changing or anything like that. Like obviously we're live and die by the three. We're shooting the three at a higher volume than ever before in NBA history. I think we just got into a slump at the worst time where we were still taking open shots. I think there's this big misconception around the NBA community that the Celtics are too reliant on the three ball, which can be true in some cases, but if you look at it, we shoot 48 threes a game, and 40 of those are considered to be open looks according to the NBA analytics on the official NBA website. So, yeah, you see a guy like Derek White, who we've talked about, who was in a little bit of a slump. He came into the arena a lot, and he said that he lost his joy for the game for a little bit. I think it was a part of that was literally just shots not falling. Granted, shots weren't falling, and the Celtics were convincing themselves the shots are eventually going to fall, and they still weren't falling. And then it's just wasted possession after wasted possession after wasted possession. I think that happened a lot, specifically in that Oklahoma City game, that first matchup back in January, where in that second half, I think we only scored 27 points total, which is crazy. But I just remember watching that game and seeing us take way too many threes when it was clear early on that half that they weren't going to be falling. And then the second thing for the turnaround is I think just the playmaking of Jason Tatum. We could keep debating on and on and on if this is the best that Tatum has looked in his career. I know Scalabrini keeps saying that on the broadcast that this is the best version of Tatum. I honestly tend to agree with that a little bit. I think that this is the best I've seen from Tatum because we know what he can do with the scoring, but his assists per game are up a whole assist compared to this time last year for this season. So he's just seeing the floor at a high level. I still think we'd all love if he drove to the paint a little bit more. I think we all think that he takes a little bit too many contested setback threes, but his playmaking's been incredible, and it's almost just been a formality at this point that he's going to be getting five, six, seven, sometimes eight assists every game. So Tatum's just really opened up the offense, and when the ball's in his hands, great things have been happening lately.
I want to say, yeah, Andrew.
Yeah, and to go off of David, from the team perspective, he seems a lot more consistent in what he's bringing to the table every night, and a lot of times we didn't have that in the past, so that's good for a team to see. But I will say it would be nice to see him drive a little more to the hoop. I looked at a stat for us, and we're like bottom half for free throw attempts. And when we played OKC, they obviously had a lot more free throw attempts than us, and those easy buckets can help us down the stretch of a game, of an important playoff game, and kind of take the load off us sometimes. So it would be nice to see a little more downhill action, and even getting downhill and then a kick, but a little more downhill action would be nice.
I love because so you played basketball, so I love your kind of analysis of it too, because like you understand because you were in the game, so it makes it so much better than I would say,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But I agree. I want to really quick and then we'll go back to Ricky, but like I 100% agree. I think just kind of having Tatum playing the best he's played all year, like kind of being a playmaker and showing them that he could affect the game in so many different ways. And I will say, I think the comeback could have been coasting. All right, yeah, we're not worried about right now. We'll kick it back up. But I think at the same time, it was just being more comfortable with the team, like getting to get back into it. Like, I mean, we could say it was championship hangover, but I've been impressed what I've been seeing from the younger guys like Baylor Shireman. Ricky, you saw a Maine Celtics game last night with Baylor Shireman. That's why I'm going to see it tomorrow. So, yeah. But so now that you've heard that, has your thoughts changed? Have you seen anything else? Would you say, Ricky?
Um, I mean, going back to the Jason Tatum thing, I think when he first came into the league, his game was not for me. I thought he was very iso ball kind of guy, tucking up, crazy shots. He still has the penchant to take shots that are sometimes ill-advised, but it's at a lot less frequency than what it used to be. Um, but I love what he's been doing, playmaking wise. He is he's the point forward for this team. He has the ball in his hands a ton. And I think that, we're gonna go as he goes, over these next few weeks. Excuse me, once the playoffs start. He's the guy. He's the engine to everything. Obviously, we have a really stacked team around him, but he's gonna drive it. He's the guy. In the last few minutes, we need a bucket. That's the guy who's gonna go. At least facilitate the bucket or get it himself. Um, so I'm just ready to see him take it to the next level. I think he wants to get that Finals MVP this year.
I agree.
I think he's feeling a little shortchanged from last year, so I think he wants it.
I want to add on to that too. I think, that definitely hurt his feelings. Like he won't admit it. He'll say, all right, Brown deserved it, but you guys all know that he wanted that. And I think running it back and, going banner 19, going back to back and him just being a complete X factor in the playoffs, because admit it, I will say this. Jason Tatum by far has been the best player on the Celtics this year. Like Brown hasn't even been in question. Um, Porzingis hasn't been in question. It's been Tatum driving this Celtics team. Obviously, it's the whole team. Like you have Derek White, you have Drew Holiday, you have Porzingis, you have Brown and Tatum. But Tatum's really been that facilitator, and he makes the game just seem so effortlessly, and he controls the pace of the game all game long. And and those threes that he makes, and it shows like how important those are. And if we didn't have Tatum, we wouldn't be where we are, you know? I wanted to just say that. Like I know that could be me being biased because I'm a big Tatum fan, but I think that's what I've seen from him from this year. But I did want to mention on this. Last night, Baylor Shireman having 20 points, only playing 16 minutes, came off the bench for the Boston Celtics. I'm high on Shireman. Andrew, I want to start off with you. He had a great game. You went to a main Celtics game too. What have
I
you
did.
Shireman in the G League and now transpiring to the NBA? What's your thoughts and his performance last night?
Well, I don't even want to take it back to in college days with Creighton.
Creighton, yeah.
March Madness is coming up, and they've had some great runs in the tournament. And they when he was on Creighton, he was that guy. Like he was the
Yeah.
leader. He was putting the ball in the hoop. He he didn't he was that guy. So it's only time that he molds in and forms into that in the NBA. And you can just tell by the way he acts on the court, the way he carries himself. It's just pretty evident that he has that kind of that winning mentality and material to be part of this organization and make an impact on the team. So I'm excited to see how he can continue to develop. And to make a point, I think it's nice to see another guy. I don't think he's different, a little different than Hauser, but he kind of has that similar he's that similar asset where now maybe Sam Hauser's not playing his best or he's not feeling it. Now he can sub in Shireman and give the team, our opponent, another look. So we just have so many more options now with him being available.
I love that. We've been talking on Celtics Talk Weekly a lot about Shireman potentially taking over Sam Hauser's role in the future because obviously he had that 33-point game, but he's been struggling this year, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and you see that Baylor Shireman is doing that. But David, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I first started to give a little bit more attention to Baylor Shireman a couple weeks ago in that Philly game. I really liked his hustle in that game. I thought he got some good baskets, and obviously, as it's been said, he's getting more minutes lately, just with the season winding down and people, shuffling in and out of the lineup and in and out of the bench rotation. So it's crazy to me that he scored 17 of his 20 points in like a 10-minute span last night from the final like minute or so in the third quarter, like halfway through the fourth quarter. But we really needed it. He had that three at the buzzer in the third quarter to give us the lead by one heading in the fourth. Even the stuff that Joe Mazzulla said really resonated with me post game about Baylor, where like the plays he was making defensively, he like hustled. He flew past everyone in a play in the fourth quarter to grab a huge offensive board. He had a nice swipes at some point in the first half to grab a steal. So he's making the hustle plays, and I know he was, not a favorite of Celtics fans in the community, especially right after he got drafted because he had a bit of a rough performance in summer league, but you know, you gotta have patience with these players. I mean, he's a rookie. Like, what did we expect him to just be able to figure everything out right away and be able to be lights out as soon as he gets a chance up in Boston? No. So, this could be just one game, and we don't know where the rest of his career is going to go. But I was really impressed with what I saw out of him last night, and as it's been said, it never hurts to have another 3-point threat off the bench.
I agree. Ricky, your thoughts?
Yeah, Joe Mazzulla's favorite movie is The Town. Shireman reminds me of some dude straight out of that movie, straight out of like South Boston or Charlestown. But he's I'm not gonna. I mean, I love the energy that he brings. Apparently he can shoot. As the guy said, he had a little bit of a struggle to start, but he's unfortunately on this team, it's tough for any rookie to really get meaningful minutes. So they got to just, whenever they get their chance, they got to take advantage. And as of late, he's been doing that. So kudos to him.
I agree, and I will say from you said it perfectly. I mean, it's tough for a rookie to get minutes on this team. I mean, Jordan Walsh, he'd be getting minutes somewhere else. Nemias Queta, he'd be getting minutes somewhere else as the Celtics have developed them well. But it's tough here, and I feel like Baylor Shireman, kind of what he's been doing, and I've seen him a lot in the G League. he's been doing that in the G League too. He's a hustle player who's gonna be aggressive for rebounds. He's a hustle player who Andrew already said at Creighton, he was the man there, and he's starting to kind of mold himself and shape himself into a Boston Celtics player. And I think potentially, I don't think we see Baylor going back to the G League. I don't. I think they're gonna develop him well. But where do you guys stand on kind of his development? Do you think he's going to be a key asset to this team, or what are your thoughts? We can start off with Andrew again. We'll go in this like rotation. We'll do that.
Yeah, I think you know right now, especially in this 13 game kind of play, I think we should put him in, use him, see what he can do, like we are doing. I think once it comes playoff time, playoffs are a different energy. It's a different play style of basketball. It takes experience. It takes and I think that right now maybe he finds minutes, maybe, but I don't think that. I think right now use him at 13 game stretch, but then kind of it's inevitable that we're going to tighten the rotation as come playoffs. And I think guys like Hauser, who have that experience, who's been there, who's provided some minutes, important minutes in those moments, they're going to get those. But I think
Yeah.
it's important to keep giving them those minutes.
Yeah, David, what about you?
Yeah, I pretty much have the same answer. Just play him as much as you feel necessary in these final 13 games. If we have to rely on heavy Baylor Shireman minutes in the playoffs, then obviously something's gone wrong. But as for his future, I mean, I think there's potentially a spot for him, but the problem, and it's a good problem we have, is that we'd have to clear up a spot for him. There's a guy like Sam Hauser right in front of him, and this is definitely off-season talk, and I don't even want to think about moving on from anyone right now because we could potentially be going back to back with the same exact squad. But yeah, I think that the path for I almost said Drew Peterson, the path for Baylor Shireman is just a little bit more of a patient one, like we saw with Sam Hauser. I think we signed Sam Hauser in 2021 to the organization, and it wasn't really until last season that he started to get a more meaningful minutes. There was moments in that 2022-2023 season where he was one of the main guys off the bench, but it was really last season where he was, coming off the bench as a seventh or eighth man. I would say with Baylor Shireman, same with Jordan Walsh, they're just buried in this rotation right now. It's just they're going to have to be patient, but I absolutely see the potential with them to sort of backfill some of our guys if we end up moving on from some of our key contributors. I could absolutely see Jordan Walsh and Baylor Shireman filling in and not skipping a beat.
Yep. Ricky, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, going off what Dave says, I mean, I think it's inevitable. I hate to say it, but the shelf life of this team is not going to be 5 years or anything like that. So there are going to have to be guys who step up. Walsh, Steierman, Nemi. I mean, it truly wouldn't shock me in like a year or so if Keita is our starting center. That's that's kind of where the salary cap is a real thing, and who knows what's going to happen with these new owners that are going to be coming in. So the money is, it's always in the back of my mind. So we got to get these young guys who are on these cheap contracts. We got to get them up to, somewhat some type of a par. So it's just a matter of getting them the time and the time to develop. And again, it's like almost like catch-22 because it's really difficult on this particular team because of the veteran, all the veteran players that we got. But hopefully, this guy will be on the trajectory of Hauser. As you said, it took Hauser a couple of years to really get entrenched into the rotation. Let's see what happens with Shireman.
I agree. I mean, last night, like we said, 16 minutes, 20 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, and shot 87.5% from the field goal. Incredible. I love what I've been seeing from him. Obviously, Ricky, I think you said perfectly. Like, we haven't really talked about the ownership more, like a lot, and how kind of they're selling the Celtics. So like we could see what's gonna happen, and development is key, and I that's why I love what the Boston Celtics have been doing. Ricky, you won't be at the Garden for a little bit though, as the Boston Celtics are going on a West Coast road trip. Let's get into that. Okay, so Ricky has to head out. So I really quick before we go on to that, I want to hear your predictions for the next upcoming games. We face Utah Jazz on Friday, and then Sunday we face the Trailblazers, and then we follow that up on Monday as we play the Sacramento Kings, and then we'll be back Wednesday, and then we'll talk about the Suns. So, what do you, 3 games? What is the Boston Celtics record next time we meet?
It's got to be 3-0, or excuse me, 53-19. It has to be.
Yep, it has to be. All right, well, wait, hold on. So Ricky had to leave, but what are your guys's? All right, so first of all, West Coast road trip. What before we get into kind of the games and stuff, what do you want to see from the Boston Celtics in order to make this a successful road trip? Obviously, we already kind of mentioned on it how they've been slacking off. Like, okay, look, we have 50 wins, 19 losses. We're pretty much locked up in that second seed. So coasting, yeah, whatever. Da, da, da. What do you want to see for this to be a successful road trip? Andrew, I'm going to start off with you again.
Yeah, I mean, for a successful road trip, I want to see us finishing out games like the right way and playing the right way and not like we keep talking about it, but I really agree. Like we need to start building and we need to start preparing for the playoffs. And
Yep.
so how can we slowly find ways to improve come playoff time? Whether it's maybe it's maybe we start implementing, different styles of like we talked about earlier, like different lineup, styles, or implement different like a couple of different things, just see where we can go with it, and just practice, and see where we're at, and just kind of build up for come playoff time.
I love what you said right there. David, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, for it to be a successful road trip for me, just literally blow the brakes off every team. I think we're all sick and tired of all these close games. I think we're due for a blowout, and then I'll keep this short, but just the most obvious one is just get out of it healthy. The last thing we need is with 6 of our last 13 games being in this one singular road trip for any, injuries to happen and for things to linger heading into the regular postseason, excuse me. So, just play a complete game. Like it's been said, feels like it's been forever since there's been a true wire to wire victory for Boston. So the biggest thing for me is just us playing good for the entire 48 minutes and walking out of it healthy.
Yeah, no, I think you said it great right there. I think honestly, I'd like to see a lot of more Baylor Shireman time developing Nemias Queta more. Kind of obviously, you're gonna see a lot of your stars sitting a lot more because we're creeping up on playoffs. I want to see just a lot of good things from Jordan Walsh, maybe even Sam Hauser stepping up and making that big step that we want to see him do. Um, honestly, but ultimately, and what Andrew said, great habits. Close out games instead of building up a big lead and just being satisfied with it and then blowing the lead when you're up by 20. Keep your foot on the gas pedal. Keep that momentum going because if not, you're gonna start getting trouble with that when you move into playoffs because they're gonna be like, okay, well, we're satisfied, but at the same time, who knows? Maybe we go into playoffs and the Boston Celtics are like, all right, well, we're used to this. Like, we know what we did from last year. We could keep our foot on the gas pedal and we could close out a game. So I might be mistaken, but I just want to see this Boston Celtics team healthy. I think when you have those 5 guys on the floor being Derek White, Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, and Kristaps Porzingis, I think arguably not arguably, that is the best starting 5 in the NBA. And I don't see any team taking us down in a 7-game series with that healthy team. I just don't. I think that's undeniable. Anyone want to touch up on that kind of? Do you guys agree? Yeah, Andrew.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, we got to keep us healthy. And I thought of something else too while you were talking, is just having getting guys to find their rhythm, and putting
Yeah.
them in good opportunities to find rhythm come playoff time, whether it's Hauser or White or Drew Holiday, because he's kind of been struggling with injuries and all that. And I think if we can give opportunities for guys to find their rhythm and come playoff time, I think that would be very helpful for us.
Oh, that's excellent, David.
I will say something that wasn't on my bingo card for things I wanted to get accomplished towards the end of the season has been popping up the last three games, and I'm pleasantly surprised by it. Drew Holiday has been pretty aggressive the last three games shooting the
Yeah.
basketball, and like obviously that's come with all the injuries and people being in and out of the lineups, that he's actually become more of a, number one or number two scoring option. But that game in Miami, he set his season high for scoring. The game against Brooklyn, he set his season high for assists with 12 assists. And then he took 14 shots in the game last night against Brooklyn. So, I think it gets kind of lost in the shuffle here with how many threats we have offensively. And we know Drew Holiday is a defensive mastermind, that Drew Holiday can also go out there and score. Like he had, I think, the best season of his career, points per game wise, his final season with Milwaukee, over 21. We've kind of become, satisfied with the idea of him just scoring 8 to 12 points a game, but he can absolutely go out there and score 15 to 20. And like, you know, God forbid any injuries happen, but if injuries do happen and we're shorthanded like we were in the playoffs for most of last year, Porzingis on the shelf, you saw what Drew Holiday did, especially in the Indiana Pacers series. He had, I think, 28 points in that first game, and he got a vote, I'm pretty sure, or he should have, at least in my opinion, gotten a vote in consideration for Eastern Conference Finals MVP. So, honestly, that's not something I'm necessarily opposed to. In fact, I welcome it, seeing Drew kind of get more aggressive offensively. And, you know, it's a running joke with me and some friends where, of course, Drew Holiday always misses the easy layups because it feels like every time he goes right by the rim, he always seems to just smoke the easy layups. But I love seeing him be aggressive. And, yeah, I'm not opposed. And again, I welcome that continuing.
You want to add on to that, Andrew, before I go with it?
Yeah, I will say I love Drew Holiday attacking the hoop and being aggressive. And I will say there was one layup where I think Drew should have shot it. He was right underneath the hoop and he kicked it out. And I was like, just put it up, Drew. Like, put it up.
Yeah.
He's been doing that since like last season, and then like I think I saw Porzingis do that last night, or someone
Yeah.
else do it, and it's like the Drew Holiday disease is infecting
Yeah.
everyone because it's like a game of NBA 2K My Park. It's just three is
Yeah.
better than two.
We're too unselfish sometimes, you know? We're too
Yeah.
unselfish sometimes to a fault.
Absolutely.
And see, that's where kind of the Celtics are so obsessed with the three. Like it just shows that they live and die by the three ball, that they get easy layup and they're like, let's just kick it out instead.
Yeah, at least that one. At least take that one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I just want to add on to that. Drew Holiday, David, you kind of already said it. In Milwaukee, he was a player that you were scared about. Like you're like, okay, we need to lock up Drew Holiday because he could score 30 tonight. Um, with the Boston Celtics, I think he's more than capable of scoring 30, 100%. Like he could. Like he's a scorer. People forget that. But his role with Boston is not to be the first scorer, not to be the second scorer, not to be the third scorer, not to be the fourth scorer, not even sometimes the fifth scorer on this team. He could be that sixth option sometime, even seventh, some people could say. But I think Drew Holiday showing that he could still shoot the ball, and we've been concerned because of that mallet finger. We've been concerned about Drew Holiday, but him going out there giving us, did they call it the Austin Powers with the pinky or something like that? They
Yeah.
call it
Dr. Evil, yeah.
Dr.
Right.
Evil.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. With the pinky. But just showing that he's still out there and can be a very, and he's the reason why we won Banner 18 last year. I'm gonna say it straight away. That was the move that won us Banner 18. And Brad knew it. You guys saw those pictures of Brad smiling at Drew Holiday. You guys knew that was the reason. He's like, because do you want to hear why? Because we won Banner. We're winning Banner 18 this year because of this guy. But Andrew, what were you saying?
And that's the beauty of Drew Holiday
Mm.
and the Celtics in general and what Joe Mazzulla preaches is that ability to play a role and sacrifice for a bigger reason. And Drew Holiday does that. And you see it day in and day out, making great defensive plays, giving up that extra pass, even when he should have shot it. But that's what the Celtics are, and that's what our culture is all about. And if we can just keep embodying that and use that to our advantage, we're going to be good.
Yeah, and it shows you on any given night, anyone on the Celtics could score. I mean, you saw it with Derek White scoring 41 and Peyton Pritchard with 43. I mean, it shows you how many people can score. And then Sam Hauser a few nights later had 33 points. And then Drew Holiday pops off. It shows you anyone can score. So that's why I'm blowing away the concerns about this playoff run. I think we're going to be fine and we're going to step it up. But let's get into the series. Obviously, the Boston Celtics this Friday at 9:30 late game play the Utah Jazz. Obviously, the Boston Celtics got to a great lead last time we played, and we just threw it away. Um, Andrew, I'm going to start off with you. What are your scoring predictions for that game, and what do you want to see the Boston Celtics do well in order in that game? And like, what do you want to see?
Yeah, I mean, in that game and just in general, I think we've touched about it a lot, but I just want to see a complete game
Mhm.
where we move the ball and but we make the right decisions on the offensive end, and I think just continue to play our brand of basketball and commit to it, and but just put them away, just put them away, and find a way to just really send a message right now that the Boston Celtics are coming, and it's time to start really fearing them.
I want before David, before you go, I agree. We need to send a message to the NBA because yeah, we have the title on our back defending champs, but honestly, people are looking past us and looking at OKC and Cleveland. I just had to throw that on. David, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, very similar to what Andrew said. Just in order to beat the Jazz, keep your foot on the gas pedal. Don't let up. We saw what happened last time we played the Jazz, where Sensabaugh had, I think, like 17 points in that fourth quarter, brought them all the way back to end up tying it. So just don't let up. This is a 15-win team, arguably the worst team in basketball. No matter who's on the floor for the Celtics, we should be able to beat them and beat them easily. So just no funny business. If you have to rest people again, completely understandable. But yeah, just don't let up because you don't. If a miraculous run happens again, like what happened with Sensabaugh and the Jazz just not being able to miss that fourth quarter, you want to be able to sustain it. And how do you sustain that? By not keep getting taking your foot off the gas pedal.
I agree. That's what the Boston Celtics need to do. I mean, it's one where you need to go after and get that win. We'll just touch up really quick on scoring predictions, and then we'll give our series predictions as they face the Trailblazers next, and the game after they face the Sacramento Kings. But I'll start off with my scoring predictions. I desperately want to see the Boston Celtics blow out a team. Like I said, I'm tired of seeing them just barely getting it done, just barely winning, kind of slacking off. I want to see a good Boston Celtics win, and I want to see them be aggressive. So I'm going to go the Boston Celtics win 127. Yeah, I'm going way up there.
Yeah,
127 to the Utah Jazz having 103. I want a big win. I want, as we could call it, a Beantown beatdown. I want I want the Boston Celtics. I think I stole that from Randy, so my bad, Randy. Um, but I just want the Boston Celtics to get business done and show, all right, yeah, this is kind of a slacking team, but we could still put our foot on the gas pedal and destroy this team. Andrew, your scoring predictions for that
yeah,
game?
I think similar margin. I think maybe like a 120 to let's go under 100. I mean, let's defend and really put them away and contain all these guys, and let's take it personal and keep them under 100, maybe like 120-95, and just really
I love it.
just just because I think that's we're capable team to do that, so why not?
I love it. David, what are your thoughts?
I'm gonna go with 109-99 Celtics win. I think this game will be hopefully pretty much wrapped up after three quarters, and hopefully we can get more of the bench guys and reserves in, and the Jazz will make it a lot more prettier than it hopefully should be. So that's why I think it'll only be a 10-point win.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. This Boston Celtics team, especially at this point, you want them to blow out teams, but it's like, and we're coming to the point in the season where it's just not going to happen. You're going to sit your guys. Um, Really quick though, to wrap it up, I want to ask, so after we face the Trailblazers and then we face the Kings, Andrew, next time we meet next week on Wednesday, what is the Boston Celtics record? How many games do they win?
3-0. They
Oh,
win three. Yeah,
3-0. Love it.
yeah. I think so. I just think that these teams that we're facing, they're teams that maybe struggle with identity, don't really have rhythm right now, and we gotta put away teams that are the best in the league and teams that are struggling and can't show mercy because right now it's at that point where playoffs are looming closer and it's time to put our foot on the gas.
I love it. Do you think it's a statement kind of trip? Like we say trip, but like this
I
is
mean,
three games. Do you think it
not necessarily a statement. I think it shouldn't be a statement. It should just be we're getting our job done and we're beating the Celtics team. You know what I mean?
I love it. I love it. David, your thoughts?
I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but I think the Celtics go 2-1 in this 3 game stretch. I think we are going to lose the game of the Sacramento Kings, and my reasoning for this:
Fair.
the Jazz and the Trailblazers do not have anything to play for. They're well out of the Trailblazers are, I think, in 11th or 12th. The Jazz are the worst team in the West. They're already focused on their offseason plans. They're probably still trying to lose as many games as possible to get a high draft pick. The Kings, however, are firmly in that playoff race. I think they're 1 game over 500. Let me just double check that. Yeah, they're 34 and 33. They're in ninth place. Unless something goes extremely wrong, they're going to be in that playoff play-in mix with a chance to get a playoff spot. I think they're going to come out like they came out in that game, I think, in January against the Celtics with something to prove, a chip on their shoulder. They're going to be scrappy. They're going to want to try and win that game. They're going to want to try and win, obviously, every game left in their season to stay alive in this race. So I think the Celtics won't match the intensity in that game. Not that we have to. Again, we're locked into that second seed. So, like, if we lose this one game that I'm predicting us to unfortunately lose, it's not the end of the world. But I just think this is going to be one of these games like we've seen this season where a team is quote unquote waking up to play the Celtics, but more so just playing like their season is on the line because it literally is. Like the Kings have to make every single one of these last few games count. And that's what I think we'll see. I just think that the Celtics will see what their lineup is looking like that day. Maybe they'll rest some more people. Maybe they'll go full throttle. But I just think the Kings are going to come in with a little bit of pep in their step and play with a lot more energy just to try and keep their season alive.
I love what you said, and I honestly, you if I
Hate to be a doomer, but yeah,
no,
that's just my gut feeling.
if I were buying a car, you would have just sold me the car. Um, but like, I, I agree. I feel that, but my inner Celtics fan is going 3-0. Um, I believe in our guys, and realistically, I think the Kings can go out there and give you a great game, but I don't think that the Boston Celtics are going to take that game lightly. I think that's one that they'll more so see on the schedule and kind of give it our guys, but that could totally be one to bite us. And I never even thought about that. I did think, all right, the Kings are harder, but I didn't think about that. So you're right. So I'm gonna go 3-0 too. But I agree. That's gonna be a tough one. Um, and any final thoughts to wrap it up from you guys?
No, all set.
Yeah, so just saying again, huge shout out to Celtics Talk Weekly. Things are going to be a little different here, but good changes. We're going to try to get some more content pumping out. We're going to try to do something with the NCAA with Celtics. Don't worry, not no Celtics. So we're going to figure something out. So thank you guys for watching. We will see you guys after the Utah game, maybe even a special. We'll have to figure it out, but thank you guys for watching. Peace.